On June 19, 1975, a 67-year-old man was frying sausages in the basement kitchen of his Oak Park home when someone he knew walked in and shot him 7 times in a perfect circle around his mouth and neck. The killer was so close that powder burns marked the victim's face. The assassination was professional, surgical, and deeply symbolic. The murdered man was Sam Giancana, once the most powerful organized crime boss in America, a man who had shared a lover with a president, plotted with the CIA to kill Fidel Castro, and controlled an empire that stretched from the casinos of Las Vegas to the nightclubs of Havana. His murder, just days before he was scheduled to testify before a Senate committee investigating CIA mafia collaboration, remains one of the most enigmatic, unsolved killings in American criminal history. The message was clear. Sam Giancana knew too much, and someone wanted to ensure he would never speak again. Born Guillermo Giancana on May 24, 1908, in a tenement at 1422 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy, Sam entered a world where poverty, corruption, and violence were the air you breathed. His parents, Sicilian immigrants Antonio and Antonia Giancana, had brought little from the old country except their dreams and their desperation. Antonio worked as a pushcart peddler, selling vegetables through streets thick with the stench of stockyards and the smoke of factories. The family lived in 3 cramped rooms where 6 children fought for space, food, and their father's rare moments of affection. Antonio was a brutal man who believed the belt was the best teacher, and young Sam learned early that the world respected only one thing: the willingness to hit back harder. Sam was different from his siblings. He was small, barely 5 feet 5 inches as an adult, with a quick temper and quicker fists. While other children played stickball in the alleys, Sam watched. He studied the way power moved through the neighborhood, how the men in expensive suits commanded respect, how money changed everything. By age 10, he was running errands for the local gangsters, and by 12 he had stopped attending school entirely. Education, he decided, was for suckers who believed the American dream was won through honest work. Sam knew better. He saw the politicians who came to the neighborhood with promises and left with envelopes full of cash. He saw the police who looked the other way when the right palms were greased. The lesson was simple. The system was rigged, so you might as well rig it in your favor. His early criminal career was unimpressive by gangster standards. He started with petty theft, stealing from pushcarts and breaking into warehouses. But Sam had something most street thugs lacked: ambition and intelligence. He understood that crime, like any business, required organization, planning, and the ruthless elimination of competition. At 15, he joined the 42 Gang, a collection of young Italian thugs who terrorized Chicago's West Side. The 42 Gang wasn't just another street gang. It was a brutal finishing school for future mafia leaders. Members competed to prove their viciousness, and Sam quickly distinguished himself. He would take any dare, commit any crime, hurt anyone who challenged him. The Chicago Police Department called the 42 Gang a breeding ground for the Capone mob, and they weren't wrong. What set Sam apart was his absolute fearlessness, bordering on insanity. Other gang members might hesitate before a particularly dangerous job, but Sam rushed in with a wild abandon that both impressed and frightened his peers. They called him Mooney because of his crazy behavior, a nickname derived from the Italian word matto, meaning crazy or insane. Later, he would acquire another nickname that better captured his evolved persona, Sam the Cigar, for his ever-present stogie that became as much a part of his image as his tailored suits and cold, calculating eyes. But those who knew him in those early days always remembered Mooney, the wild-eyed teenager who seemed to have no fear of death or consequences. By his late teens, Sam had been arrested more than 70 times for offenses ranging from theft to assault. But here's where his criminal education deepened in unexpected ways. He rarely served significant time. He learned how the justice system really worked, which judges could be bought, which prosecutors had political ambitions that made them vulnerable to pressure, which police officers needed money more than they needed principles. He learned that a good lawyer wasn't someone who believed in your innocence, but someone who understood how to work the machinery of corruption that oiled the wheels of Chicago justice. Sam was building a network, making connections, and storing away favors that he would call in later. In 1926, at age 18, Sam married Angeline de Talve, the daughter of an Italian immigrant who had done well in the construction business. Angeline was beautiful, devout, and completely unprepared for the life she was marrying into. She would give Sam 3 daughters, Bonnie, Francine, and Antoinette. To the outside world, Sam tried to present himself as a family man, attending Catholic Mass on Sundays and coaching his daughter's softball team. But this facade of respectability was as thin as tissue paper. His real life was lived in the back rooms of social clubs, in the offices of corrupt politicians, and in the streets where violence was the ultimate arbitrator of disputes. The pivotal moment in Sam's ascension came through his association with Paul Ricca and Tony Accardo, 2 men who would reshape the Chicago outfit into the most profitable criminal organization in America. In 1929, Al Capone was at the height of his power, but even then, the smart money knew his reign was ending. Capone was too visible, too violent, too much of what the federal government needed to prove they could take down organized crime. When Capone went to prison for tax evasion in 1931, the Chicago outfit underwent a transformation. The new leadership, particularly Ricca and Accardo, understood that the future belonged to gangsters who operated in the shadows, who corrupted rather than killed, who built legitimate fronts while running criminal enterprises. Sam Giancana absorbed these lessons completely. He became Accardo's driver and bodyguard, positions that gave him access to the inner workings of the outfit. He sat in on meetings where millions of dollars changed hands, where politicians sold their souls for campaign contributions, where the map of Chicago was divided into territories as precisely as any military campaign. He watched Ricca manage a criminal empire with the cool efficiency of a Fortune 500 CEO, understanding that the most profitable crimes were those that looked legitimate on the surface. Gambling, loan sharking, labor racketeering. These were businesses that required accountants as much as assassins. During World War II, while other young men were being drafted, Sam was rejected for military service. The reason given was, quote, constitutional psychopathy with emotional instability, which was medical speak for saying he was too crazy and dangerous to trust with military weapons. It was perhaps the only time the U.S. government accurately assessed Sam Giancana. Instead of fighting overseas, Sam fought for control of Chicago's increasingly lucrative illegal lottery racket, known as the, quote, policy wheels. These games, which were particularly popular in black neighborhoods, generated millions of dollars annually, and Sam wanted a piece of every wheel that turned in the city. The outfit's policy takeover was methodical and brutal. They identified the independent operators who ran policy games, made them offers to become partners, and when those offers were refused, they made examples of the refusers. Bombings, beatings, and murders convinced most operators that partnership with the outfit was the only viable option. Sam was at the forefront of this expansion, personally overseeing the violence when necessary, but more often using the threat of violence to achieve compliance. He was learning that the ghost of violence was often more effective than violence itself. A reputation for ruthlessness meant you rarely had to prove it. By the late 1940s, Sam had become one of Accardo's most trusted lieutenants. He had proven himself as both an earner and an enforcer, the 2 qualities the outfit valued above all others. When the Kefauver Committee began investigating organized crime in 1950, holding televised hearings that captivated the nation, Sam was smart enough to stay out of the spotlight. While other mobsters became household names through their testimony or refusal to testify, Sam remained in the shadows, quietly consolidating power and making the connections that would later prove invaluable. The early 1950s were transformative years for Sam Giancana, both personally and professionally. In 1954, his wife Angeline died, leaving him to raise 3 daughters alone.